All right, hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are going to do something a little different. We're going to press pause on the usual relentless cycle of news about artificial intelligence. You know the drill, all the headlines about which creative jobs are about to disappear, which new startup just landed a billion-dollar valuation, the endless debates in Washington about regulation. We're going to set all of that aside, because today we're diving deeper. We're going to explore a much older, and I would argue a much more fundamental question. This isn't just an explainer about a new piece of tech. It's an investigation into what this technology is revealing about us, and how it might be quietly, fundamentally changing the very fabric of our existence. And to guide us on this journey, we need someone who thought about technology with incredible depth, long before anyone had even dreamed of a neural network. Our guide is the 20th century German philosopher Martin Heidegger. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Heidegger? Isn't he famously complicated, even obscure? And yes, you're not wrong. His work can be dense, but his ideas offer a uniquely powerful lens, a set of concepts that can help us see the present moment with stunning clarity. He forces us to stop looking at AI as just a really fancy set of tools, and to start confronting it as a profound force that is actively remaking our world, our habits, our way of thinking, and maybe even the very meaning of what it is to be human. So this is going to require our focus, but I promise you, the perspective it offers is absolutely essential for navigating the strange new world that is unfolding all around us. Let's be real. Every single day, we are just bombarded with urgent questions about AI. Will large language models make the work of writers, artists, and programmers obsolete? How do we stop these systems from amplifying the worst biases in our society? What kind of guardrails and regulations do we need to put in place to prevent some kind of catastrophe? And make no mistake, these are not trivial questions. They are incredibly important practical problems that demand serious attention from all of us. But, and this is the big but, this is the pivot for our entire explainer today. What if our relentless focus on these practical issues is a kind of distraction? What if we're so busy arguing about the seating arrangements on the Titanic that we fail to notice we've hit an iceberg? What if we're so consumed with what we should do with AI that we completely fail to see what AI is doing to us? The arrival of AI is so much more than a technological upgrade. You could call it a philosophical event. It's a moment that shatters the comfortable, clean line that modern thinking drew between the person, the conscious, thinking subject, and the machine, the inert, unthinking object. It creates a rupture in how we understand ourselves. So for today, we're going to bravely set aside those immediate what should we do questions and dare to ask the bigger one, what is becoming of us? And this right here, this is the quote that changes everything. This reframing, which is at the heart of Heidegger's thought, moves our whole conversation from the practical to the existential. It shifts the discussion from ethics, which is the study of right and wrong actions, to something called ontology, which is the philosophical study of being itself. It forces us to stop thinking about technology as a set of neutral tools that we can just pick up and put down whenever we want. Think about it this way. Take the invention of the automobile. On the surface, it was just a tool, right? A way to get from point A to point B a little faster. But did it just do what we wanted it to do? Of course not. It completely remade the world. It created the suburbs and the phenomenon of commuting. It carved the national highway system into the landscape. It gave us a new feeling of personal freedom and mobility, but it also gave us traffic jams and new kinds of pollution. The car wasn't just a tool in our world. It created an entirely new world for us to live in. Heidegger's point is that all truly powerful technologies work this way. And AI, well, AI might just be the most powerful technology of all. It's not just a fancy calculator in our hand. It's quickly becoming an environment that we inhabit, an atmosphere we breathe. And it's an environment that is shaping our perceptions, our choices, our relationships, and our very way of being in the world. All right, so to navigate this pretty complex philosophical territory, here's our game plan. We'll start with part 1, the forgotten question, where we'll dig up the foundational question Heidegger believed all of Western philosophy basically overlooked. Then, in part 2, a world of tools, we'll look at our fundamental relationship with the world and how AI is trying to perfect it. In part 3, we'll talk about the algorithmic they and see how AI is basically automating social conformity. Part 4, the flight from ourselves, will look at the deep existential truths that this new reality might be helping us run away from. Then in part 5, we'll get to the heart of the matter by analyzing the danger of outsourcing our care. And finally, in part 6, after all that heavy diagnosis, we'll ask if there's a way out, if there's a saving power hidden inside the danger itself. Okay, let's dive right in. Part 1, the forgotten question. To really get a handle on the challenge that AI poses, we first have to understand a question that Heidegger said has been ignored for more than 2,000 years. This is the question that sets the entire stage for everything else we're going to talk about. The absolute cornerstone of Heidegger's philosophy is this crucial distinction. On one side of the slide, you see beings, or Seiende in German. This is pretty straightforward. Beings are all the individual things that exist. A rock is a being, this tree is a being, this computer, you, me, we are all beings. This is the world that science studies. Biology takes up the being we call an organism. Physics studies the being we call a particle. Sociology studies the being we call a society. Science is absolutely brilliant at taking the universe of beings and then categorizing them, measuring them, and analyzing their properties. But then, on the other side, you have being itself, with a capital B, Sein in German. And this is not just another being on the list of things. It's something else entirely. It's the very meaning of to be. It's what we mean whenever we say that something is. Let me try an analogy. Imagine you are in a brightly lit room. All the things in the room, the chair, the table, the lamp, the book, those are the beings. Science can study each of them in incredible detail. But what about the light itself? You don't really see the light, you see by way of the light. The light isn't another object in the room, it's the condition that makes it possible to see any of the objects at all. Heidegger's huge claim is that Western philosophy, ever since Plato, got so obsessed with studying the furniture in the room that it completely forgot to ask about the light. It got lost in the study of beings and forgot the question of being. And this is precisely the trap that AI lays for us. AI is the ultimate tool for analyzing beings. All the data, all the words, all the pixels in the world. But it is, by its very nature, completely blind to the question of being. It can analyze the notes, but it can't hear the music.
So if we're going to ask about being, about the light itself, where on earth do we start? Well, Heidegger says we have to start with the one and only being we know of, for whom being is already a question. The one being that worries about its own existence. And that being is us. Now, to get away from all the philosophical baggage that comes with words like human or person or mind, Heidegger coins this special, kind of weird-sounding term, Dasein. It translates literally as being there. He uses this strange word on purpose, to jolt us out of our old ways of thinking about ourselves. Think about it. A rock doesn't care that it's a rock. A computer processes data, but it doesn't lay awake at night pondering the meaning of its own existence. Only Dasein does that. Our own existence is an issue for us. And the most radical idea here is that for Dasein, our essence is our existence. What that means is that we don't arrive in the world with a fixed, pre-installed human nature, like a computer with an operating system. We are born as a kind of question mark. We are pure possibility. Our essence isn't what we are right now, but what we are in the process of becoming. We literally define who we are through the choices we make, the projects we undertake, and the life that we lead. We are the authors of our own being.
To really get a grip on Dasein, we need to understand these 4 ideas that are all woven together. First, we are being in the world. Now, the in here doesn't mean in like water is in a glass. It's more like how a chef is in the kitchen. The chef isn't just an object inside a box. She is completely immersed in a meaningful world of tools, ingredients, tasks, and purposes. That's how we are. We are always already enmeshed in a web of relationships and significance. Second, thrownness. We are, as Heidegger puts it, thrown into our existence. You didn't choose to be born in the 21st century. You didn't choose your parents, your native language, or the culture you grew up in. You were just dropped into it. This is our unchosen starting situation, the set of givens that we have to work with. But third, even though we're thrown, we're not determined. And this is projection. We are always ahead of ourselves. We are always leaning into the future, projecting ourselves toward possibilities. We understand who we are right now in light of what we could be. We live for the sake of goals and projects and dreams. And finally, all of this together makes Dasein what Heidegger calls the clearing, or Lichtung. Picture reality as this vast, dense, dark forest. Dasein, human existence, is like a clearing in that forest. It's only within this open space of human concern and understanding that things can show up as things and be understood. We are the place where the world can reveal itself. The danger, as we're about to see, is that modern technology threatens to clutter up this clearing, to block out the light. All right, so with that philosophical groundwork laid, let's move into our second part, a world of tools. We're moving from the abstract to our concrete, everyday lives. We've established that we are being in the world, but how do we actually interact with that world most of the time? Heidegger's answer is simple: through tools. And it's right here that the worldview of AI presents its first really profound challenge to us.
So Heidegger points out that we encounter things in the world in two fundamentally different ways. The first, and our most common way, is what he calls ready to hand. Think about a skilled carpenter hammering a nail. Is she thinking about the hammer, about its specific weight, its shape, its material? No, of course not. The hammer has effectively disappeared. It's become a seamless extension of her arm, totally integrated into the activity of building. The same thing happens when you're driving a familiar car or typing on a keyboard you know well. The tool becomes transparent. Your focus is entirely on the task at hand. This is our primary, engaged, absorbed way of being in the world. But what happens when the head of the hammer suddenly flies off? Crack! The smooth, unthinking activity comes to a grinding halt. The tool is broken, and in that instant, the hammer is no longer an invisible extension of your body. You stop, and you stare at it. You pick it up. You notice its properties. Ah, the wood is splintered here. Look at the weight of this mal head. This was poorly made. The tool has become an object for you to observe and analyze. This is the state Heidegger calls present at hand. And for Heidegger, this moment of breakdown is not just an annoyance. It is philosophically crucial. It's the moment that yanks us out of our unthinking everyday immersion and forces us to reflect. It makes us think about our tools, our projects, and our world. In a very real sense, the breakdown is the birth of thought. Now think about the explicit, stated goal of almost all modern technology and especially AI-driven user experience design, what they call UX. What are the buzzwords you always hear? Seamless, frictionless, intuitive, invisible. The entire project of modern tech design is to create a world of perfect readiness to hand. It's to design a world where the hammer never breaks. AI is the ultimate engine for this. It is engineered to anticipate our every need, to smooth over every difficulty, to remove every single obstacle. Think about using Google Maps. It creates a world in which you never actually get lost. You never have that moment of breakdown, that moment of pulling over to the side of the road, unfolding a giant, clumsy paper map, and having to really think about where you are and your place in the world. The app is specifically designed to ensure that the hammer of navigation is never, ever broken. So if the moment of breakdown is what triggers reflection, what kind of human being is produced by a world where nothing ever breaks down? What happens to us when we live in a state of perfectly frictionless, seamless immersion? We risk becoming perpetual, unthinking users, skillfully navigating a world whose fundamental structures we never ever question because they never fail us. This leads us to one of Heidegger's most famous and difficult concepts, the enframing, or Gestell in German. For him, this is the deep essence of modern technology. It is not a specific gadget or a piece of software. It is a fundamental worldview. Think of it like a pair of glasses that gets fused to your face and forces you to see everything in only one particular way. The enframing is a mode of revealing the world that aggressively challenges it forth. It's a way of looking at everything, rivers, forests, animals, and yes, even human beings, and demanding that they present themselves in one and only one way, as a resource to be measured, controlled, optimized, and exploited. From within the enframing, a mountain is no longer a majestic presence that inspires awe, it is a deposit of minerals to be extracted. A forest is no longer a complex, mysterious ecosystem, it is a quantifiable stand of timber to be harvested. This worldview takes the rich, multi-layered, meaningful world and flattens it into a giant spreadsheet of potential resources. And the direct result of this enframing worldview is that everything gets turned into what Heidegger calls standing reserve, or Bestand. When something is viewed as standing reserve, it's been stripped of its own dignity, its own integrity. It's just sitting there, on call, waiting to be unlocked, optimized, and used for some technological purpose. Heidegger's classic example was the Rhine River. For hundreds of years, the Rhine was a central part of German poetry, culture, landscape, and identity. But when it was inframed by modern technology, it was challenged to become a hydroelectric power source. Its very being was reduced to being a standing reserve of electrical energy waiting to be unlocked by a dam. And AI is the ultimate engine of this process. Because what AI inframes is human experience itself. Our personal photographs and family histories become a standing reserve of training data for facial recognition. Our patterns of clicking, watching, and listening become a standing reserve of attention that can be bundled and sold to advertisers. Our very lives are challenged to show up as quantifiable data streams,
as a standing reserve for algorithmic optimization. And that's the terrifying reversal. We who thought we were the masters of technology are ourselves being turned into the ultimate standing reserve.
This brings us to part 3, and this is where we find one of the most direct and, frankly, one of the most chilling parallels between Heidegger's analysis from the 1920s and our world today. We're about to see how AI has taken a very old human habit, our tendency to just follow the crowd, and has automated it, perfected it, and made it into the very fabric of our digital lives. In our everyday lives, Heidegger said we are powerfully influenced by this anonymous force he called das Man. It's best translated as the they or the one, as in one just doesn't do that. It's that faceless voice of social conformity. It's the voice that whispers, nowadays, people are all watching this show, or they say you shouldn't talk about politics at dinner. The they tells us what to wear, what opinions to hold, what books we're supposed to be reading, and what we should be outraged about this week. And following the they is comfortable. It's easy, it relieves us of the heavy burden of making our own choices and taking responsibility for them. But this comfort comes at a huge price. We lose our individuality. We lose our uniqueness. When we're governed by the they, we are living what Heidegger calls an inauthentic life. It's a second-hand existence where we become interchangeable parts in a big social machine.
AI algorithms are the technological perfection of the they. They are das Man, formalized into code and scaled to the entire planet. They're not just helpful tools. They are the they on steroids. Just think about a recommendation engine, like on Netflix or Spotify. It doesn't know you, your unique soul, your personal history. It knows a statistical category it calls people like you, and it suggests whatever the average person in that giant cluster seems to enjoy. It is the pure logic of the crowd. Look at your social media feed. It isn't showing you the world as it is. It's showing you what people are talking about, what's trending, what's going viral. It constructs a public reality based on mass engagement. And most purely of all, think about a generative AI like ChatGPT. When you ask it to write something, its entire purpose is to produce the most statistically plausible, the most average, the most conformist response possible, based on the vast ocean of public text it was trained on. It is the voice of the they given superhuman fluency. It is a machine for generating perfect, unoriginal, acceptable mediocrity on any topic imaginable. Now, what makes the algorithmic they so much more powerful and so much more insidious is its black box nature. The old analog they of social pressure was anonymous, sure, but you could kind of see how it worked. You could see the fashion trends in magazines, you could hear the gossip spreading through town. But the inner workings of a complex neural network are often completely opaque, even to the brilliant engineers who build them. We follow their recommendations for what movies to watch, what news to read, who to date, without any real understanding of the source of that directive or the logic behind it. We are conforming not just to an anonymous public, but to an anonymous and computationally obscure authority. This deepens what Heidegger called our fallenness into the everyday world. It makes it so much harder to question or resist the nudges of the they, because we can't even see the strings that are pulling us. We're just following orders from a ghost in the machine. Okay, so this leads us to a really critical question. If we are so eagerly building and embracing this technological world that helps us conform, that helps us escape, what exactly are we trying to escape from? Heidegger has a very clear answer, and it gets to the heart of what it means to be human. This is part 4, the flight from ourselves.
This slide shows a fundamental choice. 2 completely different paths we can take in response to a core human feeling. First, we have to understand Heidegger's key distinction between fear and angst. Fear has an object. You're afraid of a spider, or of public speaking. Angst, on the other hand, is a kind of objectless dread or anxiety. It's that deep, unsettling feeling that can creep up on you in a quiet moment when all the usual distractions fade away. The world suddenly feels a bit strange, and you're confronted with your own radical freedom and the stark, unavoidable fact that your life is finite. For Heidegger, this terrifying experience is actually a gift. It's the gateway to an authentic life. It's a wake-up call from the they that forces you to ask, given that my time is limited, how do I really want to live my life? Now consider the second path on this slide, the AI-mediated escape route. What happens in our world, right now, in that fleeting moment of boredom, that flicker of unease, that whisper of angst? What's the reflex? The hand goes to the pocket, the phone comes out, the thumb begins to swipe. We open an app and are immediately served an infinite scroll of content, a notification, a targeted distraction. The angst is instantly quieted by a tiny hit of dopamine. The precious opportunity for self-confrontation is smoothed over and lost. The infinite scroll is a technological marvel designed for one primary purpose: to help us flee from the call of authenticity. To really get what we're running from, we have to understand what Heidegger meant by this phrase, being towards death. And I know, it sounds incredibly morbid and depressing, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's not about obsessing over death. It's a concept about how to live life with purpose and meaning. Heidegger says my death is my own most non-relational possibility. It's the one thing in my life that nobody else can do for me, and it's the final boundary that gives my whole life its shape and its meaning. Think about any story you love. It's powerful because it has an ending. A story that went on forever would be a meaningless, rambling mess. In the exact same way, it is our finitude, the fact that our story has an end, that gives urgency and weight and preciousness to our choices. The public world of the they constantly tries to evade this truth. It treats death as a kind of unfortunate accident that happens to other people. But to live an authentic life, Heidegger says, is to live with an awareness of your own end. And that awareness is what liberates you from the trivial chatter of the crowd and forces you to focus on what truly matters.
And this brings our philosophical journey into a head-on collision with one of the wildest dreams of the tech world, transhumanism, and especially the idea of achieving digital immortality by uploading our minds to a computer. From a Heideggerian perspective, this is the ultimate expression of inauthenticity. It's the final technological attempt to flee from the one condition, our own finitude, that makes a meaningful life possible in the first place. This dream represents the total victory of the present-at-hand worldview. It's the ultimate belief that a person, a Dasein, can be reduced to a pattern of information, a giant data file that can be copied, pasted, and preserved forever. But this project completely misses the point of what it means to be Dasein, to be a being there, thrown into a specific world, engaged in caring. You can't upload your there. You can't upload your body, your world, your relationships. In its desperate attempt to solve death, this dream seeks to eliminate the very thing that calls us to live a genuine, meaningful life.
Okay, we now arrive at our final diagnosis in Part 5. This might be the most subtle point, but it's also the most profound. It focuses on the very structure of our existence, which Heidegger brought together under one single, powerful term, care. When Heidegger talks about care, or Sorge in German, he doesn't just mean worrying. It's a much bigger concept. For him, care is the fundamental, unified way that we exist across time. It's a threefold structure, like a braid, and all three strands are always woven together. First, we are always ahead of ourselves, projecting into the future. We live for the sake of certain possibilities, whether that's planning what to have for dinner, working towards a degree, or raising a family. Second, we are always already in a world, carrying our past with us. Our history, our memories, our culture, our thrownness provides the ground from which we make all our plans for the future. And third, we are always alongside things in the present, absorbed in our daily tasks, our jobs, our relationships. Care is this unified temporal structure of future, past, present. It's what defines our engaged human way of being. And what is so much of modern AI being designed to do? It's being designed to intervene in and manage this entire structure for us. We hear this term all the time now, cognitive offloading. We let AI manage our calendars, remember our appointments, suggest what we should buy, and even plan our vacations. On the surface, this just sounds like we're gaining convenience. Who wouldn't want that? But from the perspective we've been building, what we're actually doing is outsourcing the very activities that constitute care. We offload our planning, which is our active engagement with our future. We offload our memory to the cloud, which is our active engagement with our past. We offload our decision-making to recommendation engines, which is our engagement with the present. The danger here is one of atrophy. We all know that if you stop using a muscle, it withers away. If Dasein is its activity, if our being is this structure of caring, what happens when we stop performing the fundamental activities of caring for our own existence? The ultimate risk is not some dramatic Hollywood-style robot uprising. It is a quiet, comfortable, voluntary abdication of our own being.
We risk transitioning from active beings who care for our own lives to becoming passive entities to be cared for, to be managed by an algorithm like a resource.
Part 6. The saving power. Okay, after that incredibly daunting and, I'll admit, pretty heavy diagnosis, we are left with the most important question of all. Is there any hope? Are we just doomed to this frictionless, inauthentic future where our lives are managed for us? Surprisingly, Heidegger was not a pessimist. He believed that there is a path forward, a saving power that can be found right in the heart of the danger itself.
Heidegger loved to quote this line from the poet Friedrich Hölderlin, because for him it expressed a deep and profound truth. The essence of technology, this enframing worldview, is the greatest danger because it threatens to become total. It threatens to cover up all other ways of seeing the world, leaving us with only the cold logic of resources and optimization. It's dangerous because it can make us forget that there are other ways to be. But precisely because this danger is so extreme, so all-consuming, it can act as a massive wake-up call. By showing us in crystal clear detail what a world of pure calculation looks like, by perfecting it in the form of AI, technology forces us to finally see what it is we're losing. The sheer totality of the danger might be the very thing that reawakens our deep human longing for that which lies beyond calculation and efficiency. So the path forward begins by recognizing and actively practicing two very different ways of thinking. On one hand, you have calculative thinking. This is exactly what it sounds like. It computes, it plans, it organizes, it optimizes. It is logical, efficient, and goal-oriented. It always asks the question, how? How can I do this faster? How can I achieve this goal? This is the mode of thinking that AI is brilliant at. AI systems will always be able to outcalculate and out-optimize us. Trying to beat AI at its own game is a recipe for failure. But there is another mode of thought, meditative thinking. This way of thinking isn't racing towards a goal. It ponders, it reflects, it is open to mystery. It doesn't try to find an answer as quickly as possible, it dwells with a question. It doesn't ask how, it asks what for or why. It's not interested in efficiency, it's interested in meaning. This is the kind of thinking we do when we stand in front of a great work of art, or grapple with a difficult life decision, or just sit quietly and wonder at a sunset. Our salvation from the danger of technology isn't to reject it, but to deliberately protect and strengthen this uniquely human capacity for meditative thought, which the constant noise of our world threatens to drown out. This leads us to a practical path forward, a way of living that Heidegger might call poetic dwelling. Now, this isn't about everyone needing to write poetry. It's about living in a non-instrumental, non-calculative way, even within our technological world. So what does that look like? First, we have to willfully make AI present at hand. We have to intentionally break the seamless spell. This means demanding explainable AI so we can question the machine's logic. It means treating AI like a strange tool to be prodded and tested, not a magical oracle to be obeyed. Second, we have to embrace unuseless arts and activities. Do things that have no point, that can't be optimized, that have no ROI. Learn to play an instrument badly, tend a small garden, go for a long walk with no destination. Have a deep, meandering conversation that isn't about solving a problem. These activities are powerful acts of resistance against the enframing worldview. Third, we can practice digital minimalism. This isn't about being a Luddite and smashing our phones. It's about being an intentionalist. It's about choosing our tools like a master carpenter, asking, does this app truly serve my deepest values, or does it just want to hijack my attention? Be ruthless. And finally, we have to recognize this isn't just an individual battle. We have to support humane technology. We have to advocate for policies and support companies that are trying to change the rules of the attention economy, that are trying to build technology that aligns with our well-being, not just with maximizing profit. And so we come to the end of our journey. What we've discovered is that the ultimate danger of AI, from this deep philosophical viewpoint, isn't the science fiction fantasy of evil robots rising up to destroy us. The danger is far more subtle and far more intimate. It is the danger that AI will perfect a world that is so seamless, so convenient, so entertaining, that it will stop us from doing the hard, necessary work of being human. The ultimate danger is not that AI will think for us, but that it will stop us from thinking about being at all. It threatens to smooth over every moment of productive anxiety, to answer every question before it is even fully formed, and to fill every silence where a difficult, authentic thought might have had a chance to grow. It threatens to make us forget that our existence is and must always be a question. And so, the final question of this explainer is a question for you. In the coming world of perfect, instant, optimized answers, will we have the courage and will we make the space to still be able to hear the question of our own being? Thank you for joining me on The Explainer.